Haverim, Haverim. What an opportunity to break my chains and reach out to you here. Let me see if you're hearing me. Haverim, Haverim. What an opportunity for me to break my chains momentarily and reach out to you in this way. Thank you for all your little pokes and your kisses and your embraces over the internet, your Facebook, all your great comments. I'm so impressed by some of you. Uh, your enthusiasm for the Torah, your enthusiasm to learn, and this is not always easy to do. I mean, we all have preconceived ideas, we all have preconceived thoughts, and I'm talking about everybody: Jews, Gentiles, uh, Muslims. We all have preconceived ideas, and sometimes that makes learning difficult, right? But I had some questions from you. I post a lot of uh, I post a lot of stuff from Infowars, and there's a lot of talk about the economy now. A lot of people are worried that the economy might collapse, that the world economy might collapse. And I'm afraid that we have to take these things seriously because some of these voices are governmental. Some of the voices are coming from the United Nations, and some of the voices are coming from Wall Street. I felt a little nostalgia today, so I put on my New York cap. Gone were the days when I could just take the train over to 18th Street and Barnes and Nobles and eat a knish over there. I miss being in the city and stuff like that. But thank you. Some of you are thanking me all over the internet for what I do. Contrary, I thank you that you inspired me to come on the internet, and that's my clock ringing. I hope you don't hear it, but it chimes every hour. But anyway, you've inspired me to speak to you uh, right here from the wilderness, from the home of the Molly Maguires, and you inspired me to come back. I mean, I had been up here in this place for like 10 years. I was almost forgetting how to speak English, but I'm starting to remember how to speak English, and I thank you for the opportunity of being able to teach you a little Torah in this way. This is the purpose. My purpose in life is to be able to propagate the Torah. But back to what I started talking about. Yeah, folks have to take this talk of collapsing economy and society and world. You have to take it seriously because there's a lot of social scientists that are talking about it too. So I have a unique perspective because I've spoken when I lived abroad. The Latin American country that I went to visit actually collapsed while I was there, and I saw the entire thing, how the country collapsed. I saw the rioting. Uh, I was under my bed while bullets were going over my bed, over my house, and I was there. I was there. I saw the entire thing. I was there in April of '82 when the army shot 3,000 people, and basically the military told us, the medical staffs of all the hospitals, that we could not aid the wounded, and of course we couldn't fight against the military, but we had a very smart leader of the doctor corps and nurse corps, and he just turned around and says, "Okay, you don't want us to deal with the wounded? We'll just go home and close up, and we'll be back whenever you let us." And the military said, "Well, wait, we're going to have a lot of wounded troops." Oh, you and the doctor said, "Oh, you will? Well, if we're here in the hospital, we have to deal with everybody that comes to the hospital, whether they're soldiers or whether they're civilians." And of course, that's how doctors were allowed to deal with the wounded. But I saw how the country collapsed, and there's nothing like it. You have to live through it to experience it. And this is why preparedness is so important, right? And you have to prepare yourself and your family for a possible collapse. And the way you do it is not by scaring your family, even though you might feel scared and you might have fear. You start preparing. You make it fun to prepare. You sit down with your kids and you say, "Hey, suppose we ran out of electricity and ran out of water. How will we live?" And you turn it into a little game, and you turn it into a little excitement for them. How will we survive on our own? Let's try it. And then you go downstairs and you turn off the water and you turn off the electricity and you sit there and you say, "Okay, everybody, what do we need to live?" And you have the kids get involved and you train them, and they'll write lists for you. And it's important to have at least 2 stashes in your home: a small stash, a small concise stash that can last for a week, and then a bigger stash that can last for 30 days. Because if there is a collapse, if there's an immediate collapse, it can take anywhere between 7 to 30 days before it gets under control. So you have to have 2. So what do you do is you make a list. Yes, make the small box. That's your emergency box. That's the box that you put in your car in case you have to drive. If you get stuck out there, you don't want to be stuck alone. And you put things in the box like immediate food supplies, iodine in case you have to drink dirty water. And there's plenty of information on this on YouTube, by the way. But you prepare that emergency box, and then you prepare your stash. Your stash could be in the basement, could be in the attic, out of the way. And you make sure that it's mostly canned foods, dry milk, for example, canned foods, and about 20 to 30 gallons of water, a gallon a day. And you prepare that stash. And that stash is just in case you get stuck in the house and you can't leave. And then you go, so you have 2 stashes. Then the most important stash is the stash of stuff that you have at your organization. If you're a church person, you have to talk to your church to have stuff in the church for the immediate congregation, and if possible for the community. If you don't go to a church, let's say you go to synagogue, same thing. Let's say you don't go to a church or synagogue. Let's say you're a Mason, go to your Masonic hall and talk to them about this. And whatever organization you have at your fingertips, you go and you talk to them about this and make sure that you have, like your school, for example. Your school may not mind that you stash 500 gallons of water in the basement. They may like that idea. Okay, a school's a great place to start. And so you have to have those 3 stashes. And you have to be aware that when there is a collapse, most police officers will stay with their families in their homes to take care of them. You are going to be basically facing rioting. The best thing is to have a weapon. Best thing is to have a weapon like a shotgun. If you can't shoot if you don't know how to shoot a gun, you can shoot a shotgun. 12 gauge shotgun, and of course if you know how to shoot a nice hand pistol like a Glock is good. If you're in a city where you can't have weapons, then for example a nice crossbow, 150-pound crossbow, a harpoon works really nice. And finally, my favorite, a nice razor sharp machete. Have 2, one to throw and then one to run up and take off a limb, because if you don't want to kill the person, just chop off one of the legs or arms, and believe me, they won't hurt you. They won't do anything to hurt you. But anyway, this is serious stuff, all right? Because a lot of Jewish people are in the city, and you're going to have to face rioting on your own, all right? A lot of you are going to get stuck in the city. And the best thing is to have weapons, all right? And that's with that. There's a lot of this information on YouTube. There's a lot of prepping information and stuff. And the good thing about this is you can store all this food, and if you don't need it, you could always eat it. You know, it's not like you're going to be wasting money. Okay? So, I wrote notes about this. The American people are alarmed more than ever at the complete lawlessness of its institutions and its central government. And so uh, there is a plan to establish martial law in this country. I believe the entire federal government will collapse. By the way, they're not going to. There's not going to be. They're not going to be able to do a martial law in this country. They may try. It may last for a day or two, but the entire federal government will collapse. You're talking about a huge, what, $3 trillion federal government? You think this thing is going to survive? Right? And once it's established martial law, which is against the Constitution, it will easily be overthrown by its people. All right? Any person that comes to your house that wants to remove your children, rape your children, kill your children, you have the right to immediately kill that person. I don't care who it is. That's your right. God gives you that right. And this goes for Christians. You have an obligation to prevent the theft and rape of your children, and you can use law. You can use weapons. All right? Whoever it is. Because whoever it is, whether it's a judge, a police officer, a military man, if he goes against the Constitution and he tries to rape or kill your children, you have a perfect right to put a hot one between their eyes. So meditate about this. I've spoken about this, about pacifism. And there's a lot of Christians that misunderstand the stance of self-defense. See, Rome did not belong to the early Christians, but this nation, America, this nation was made by your fathers and belongs to you. You have the right and you have the responsibility to vote, to responsibly move your congressmen and senators to act in a way concurrent to the Constitution of the United States. So the Christians in the first century era, they couldn't do nothing against the pagan Roman government, but you can act against, you can act in favor of a constitutional government, or you can act against an unconstitutional government. Okay, Christians get that mixed up. All right, and so yeah, enough of that. Enough. We're preparing for the collapse. Best thing to do is to be able to, in a collapse, is to leave the city. But most of you are going to be. You only have like 24 to 36 hours. Once the crisis hits, you're not going to be. A lot of you, most of you, are going to get stuck, and you're going to be caught in the rioting. Somebody. I mean, I put a lot of stuff on the internet about the Pope and stuff. Somebody asked me, like, do you have something against Pope Francis? What would you do if you met the Pope? I mean, Pope Francis, I mean, he has to be a very dedicated person to be working at that age. It's very hard to work at that age. I mean, a person that's 70, 80 years old, the most you're going to have is 4 or 5 hours of. So he's probably a dedicated man. I have nothing against Francis. I mean, if I met him, I'd probably make some tea for him. I'd probably ask him, how is he doing? I would play checkers. You know what I'm saying? I would cut his nails. I don't know. I have nothing against the Pope, but I do have a lot against the papacy. Remember this, the papacy is a power-broking entity. All right? It's a power broker. Never does nothing for you without asking anything back. There's people who bless Israel and don't expect anything back, like Pastor Hagee. He goes to Israel. He invests in the welfare of the Jewish people. He doesn't want nothing back. But the papacy, the work of the papacy is to protect the interests of the papacy. And they go to Israel and they will do a favor for you, but they will ask 3 favors back. They've been known for this for many years. For example, right now, they went to Israel, and I don't appreciate that they had mass in David's tomb. Okay? Fine, you want to help the Jewish people? Don't desecrate its holy places. And the fact that the Israel central government agree with it, that shows that this Israel central government is really against the best interests of the Jewish people. Because the best interest, the most important thing for the Jewish people now is to establish holiness. And that shows that the central government. So you have to be ready at any time to overthrow your own government. I'm sorry to say. You have to be ready for this. All right? Because that, contrary to popular opinion, God permitted the establishment of that area there, which they named Israel, which is not Israel. for the reestablishment of holiness among the Jewish people. That's my opinion. All right, and that's the only reason that. So the state of Israel, you have to, when the state of Israel is going to do anything like that, to allow the Pope to come in, you have to check with the rabbinate and the Sanhedrin. You have to ask their opinion and not be complicit in desecrating the holy places in Israel. Because God, you don't think you think that God can overthrow the Israeli military very easily. So don't be pompous. Don't be a bunch of pompous asses and think that you are beyond God's retribution. The state of Israel has to respect the will and the desires and the well-being of the Jewish people, and that means its religious well-being as well. All right, the rabbinate and the great court have to be respected. So enough of the Pope. Oh, good. I'm going through this real quickly. I decided to make notes because if I don't make notes, I become incoherent. Somebody asked me, I had a question from a Christian. Excuse me a minute. A Christian asked me a question. Some of you guys are asking some pretty good questions, by the way. Can I convert to Judaism and still believe in Jesus? You see, the answer to that is no, because just see, there's several types of. We're talking when you say the word Jesus, there are different types of Jesuses, believe it or not. All right, there's a pagan Jesus, there's a counterfeit Jesus, there's a Christian Jesus of the 1st century, there's a Christian Jesus of the 3rd century, there's a Christian Jesus of the 20th century. What is not clear is a historical Jesus. Okay, and the only Jesus that the Jews know, for example, is the Jesus that has been used as a tool of anti-Semitism and killing the Jewish people for 2,000 years. So we have to undig the real historical Jesus. We have to unbury him from mythology. And once he is reestablished as a historical figure, free of the mythology, then we will be able to have a conversation like this. Who was it? Joseph Klausner, great historian, great theologian. He wrote Jesus of Nazareth, and I remember reading that book like 20 years ago, and I can't forget that he said something like, I can only paraphrase him, he said, if ever the narratives of the New Testament are stripped of their mythology, the New Testament will be among the choicest readings of the Jewish writings, something like that. So we have to take this all away, right? And once that's done, once we strip away the mythical Jesus, yes, you can convert to Judaism and have certain beliefs of the man of Nazareth. Or why not? Once you convert, if you want to have the man as your Rebbe, or you want to have a historic, I'm a Pharisee, and the Rabbi Yeshua was a Pharisee, so I have that in common with him. All right, and the most important thing is to unbury the minhag of the man from Nazareth. I can't do that, but there's a lot of you folks out there that have the resources and intelligence to be able to do that. Right now I'm recording something. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. But so we have to unbury the minhag of Yeshua ben Joseph, so that we can restore him in the historical narrative of the Jewish people. And the Jewish people have a lot to heal. It's been 2,000 years that this man has been used to kill the Jewish people, and Christians have completely mythologized the man as well. Okay. So your answer is no and yes at the same time. Okay. Like this question here, like you asked me a question about angels and stuff. I'm sorry, I'm trying to cut away the word stuff. You asked me about it. There's a lot of things that I know that I'm not explaining now. I try the stuff that I try to do on Facebook is I try to talk about stuff and I try to say things that are closest to the Torah that you recognize. But there's a lot of personal speculations and what I call revelations that I have had that I don't talk about because it's important first that I draw you to the Torah. Once I draw you to the Torah, I can talk from the Torah, and I can. But if I say something, for example, about angels that you'd never heard before, you're going to think that I'm inventing it. But once you see that I am founded on the Torah, that I live the Torah, and that I am the Torah, then I'll be able to tell you the different things that I know that apparently are not part of the Torah, but I have a lot of things that I have to tell you that I'm keeping from you at this moment, which is, and I don't want you to misunderstand me as if I'm speaking mysticism. For example, the angels. The angels, as far as the Jewish people are concerned, and the Christians are concerned, are basically giant flying friendly chickens. Like, for example, God himself is misunderstood. The Shekinah is a fierce power. The Shekinah is a power to be feared. Okay? A vicious power to be feared. Now, this is why I warn my rabbis. It's good. We have scholasticism. We have studies. We use these tools. But don't think for 1 second that these are you're not going to see the Messiah showing up with the Tanya under his elbow or the Talmud scholar. He's going to look more like an Apache Indian. And the Shekinah as well. And I don't want you to, yes, I want you to be scholastic. I want you to be educated. I want you to use intellectualism. But I want you to leave a little part of your soul and understand that Hashem and those manifestations are very special and unique in their own. I can just see 10 of you, 10 rabbis going up to the Messiah and asking him, are you the Messiah? And then 5 of them will fall dead and the other 5 are going to have the answer. In other words, you have to leave an area open to deal with the Messiah and his friends in a different way. Okay? You have to leave that open. You have to be open-minded. And I had the Christian complaining because you listened to a rabbi that I sent you to, and he really attacked Jesus and stuff. Listen, there's different types of rabbis, all right, that have different attitudes. Some are very combative. You learn from all of them, but some are filled with love and speak kindly of Jesus. For example, I speak kindly about the man of Nazareth because I'm a martyr. I mean, I am a descendant of martyrs. So any Jewish martyr, whether it's Yeshua or someone else, I'm going to ask all Jews to respect that martyr. Right? So this is a very sensitive thing with me. I was martyred a long time ago. I mean, you know what happened during the Inquisition and stuff like that. Many of us were pulled out of our homes, and we were pulled up by our throats, and my family was completely devastated. Okay, just have to open up the Jewish Encyclopedia and read the disaster which the Catholic Church did, the Catholic papacy did on the Spanish Jews. And you're gonna so I asked the Jews to respect the man from Nazareth because he was a martyr. And as a matter of fact, now that I'm on the internet, I'm gonna ask all the Gentiles to get out of the room, and I want all the rabbis to come in the room. Are you ready? Okay. Now this is what I gotta tell you. Listen very carefully and don't misunderstand me. This idea that the Messiah would come at the end of time and this was a heresy that started among the Jewish people and spread to the Christians. You're responsible. This idea that the Messiah will come at the end of time like Superman, that's a heresy. And that heresy, you're responsible for this heresy. That's why you're responsible for repairing the heresy. Who said the Messiah? Think just 1 second. What of use would be that the Messiah would come at 9.99 at the end of history? He will be a completely useless person. Mashiach has, the other day I was talking on the phone. My mother called me and I was completely surprised. She said to me, I keep hearing people talking to the Messiah, that the Messiah is coming. The Messiah is already here. And I dropped the phone, almost fell on the ground. And because she told me that, she says, you can feel the Spirit. See, the Spirit of the Messiah has always been with you. He's always been with you in different forms. And I'm telling you, and I'm warning some of you rabbis, if God can jump into the mouth of a jackass, the Spirit of the Messiah can be in any Jew, including the man from Nazareth. So, help me repair the mistakes in Christianity, but don't stumble, don't attack the faith. We don't want to destroy the faith of Christians. We want to just put it in the right way, right? We want to change it. We want to bring back monotheism, and we want to do things, right? So be very careful. Attack the idolatry, yes, but be very careful, because the Spirit of the Messiah can be in every Jew, in any Jew. All right? Okay, the Gentiles can come back into the room. But, how does God do miracles? That's the type of question that there's certain questions that are very individual. Like my experience with something may be just my experience. The moment I try to fit you into my experience, that could be a form of mysticism. Your experience may be completely different. This is one of the reasons it's very hard to talk about spirituality without being mystical at the same time. But we have to do this. We have to make a difference between mysticism. Just look up the word mysticism in a dictionary. You're going to be shocked at the definition. It's like a bad word. I wouldn't even use it unless I had to. But I mean, I noticed that in my life I would see the Shekinah doing a miracle on one person, and then on the other person, the Shekinah wouldn't do the miracle. And I remember as a child, I would say to the Shekinah, "Wait a minute, what are you doing? Why didn't you heal that person?" The Shekinah said, "Well, I decide." And as a child, I said, "Well, I don't agree." Mind you, I wouldn't have this type of a disagreement today with the Shekinah. But at that time, God permitted. I was a young kid. I was like 16 years old. And I said, no, that's not fair. I want to be able to. And so the Shekinah agreed. She said, well, I'll tell you what. I'll do the healing. And then every single person that you talk to and come close to, they're going to be healed a little bit. So we came to an agreement. And since then, that's exactly what the Shekinah does. She does the real healing. And then every single person I come close to, they either will get healed or they get better. So, your experience with healing may be completely different. That's why I can't give you that formula. The only formula that I can give you is to how to approach Hashem and the Shekinah. Okay. And so much for the idea of the miracle. And the angels are not giant chickens. What's happening is that the earth has become almost like a school. And when you study the Mishkan, you're going to see it's actually two courts, one facing on, the other one facing in. And you think you're on trial, humanity, but the real trial is Hashem himself. He's being incarcerated. Wait a minute, I shouldn't have used that word. He sits in the holy place and he's cut off. He's circumcised away, and he's in judgment. He's being judged. Okay, so that's when the Mishkan, you have that, and of course in the middle you have the magistrates, which are the priests in white clothes, right? And those magistrates, God is being judged. He's being judged because of the car crash in Genesis. Here he is. He created a perfect prototype showing the way his government is, and boom, it fails. So he's under judgment. Okay. And so the angels you will see angels that are giant chickens, but when I see angels, they're just like the American Indians. Some are Apaches, some are Sioux, some are Cherokee, friendly Indians. Some are wild, some are made just for war. And at this time, this particular time, most of these angels are beings from other planets that are allowed to come and see. This is sort of become like a school ground. So they come, many of these beings, and there's another thing. I don't know if I should tell, but each one of you is very special, and some of those tribes want you to join them. It's like humanity is not just a regular creation. That's why I say everything was created, but man was birthed. You were birthed, and mankind was birthed to display God in a very very unique way. That's why when I have met angels, they suddenly get down and face toward Hashem and they begin praying, because when they see you, they see the Hashem that's invisible to them. They can't see Him. And sometimes, especially when you shine forth, they see Hashem and they're overwhelmed. They worship Hashem. See, and in times when I have met them, so I've met some of the big ones, and I mean they're like magistrates. They immediately worship Hashem when they see a human being, especially if the Hashem is shining in the holiness. They are immediately. But anyway, a lot of these beings are beings from other planets that are visiting here and learning, and they're very jealous because they've chosen you to join. Some of you, once you go into the other life, you're going to join these different bands of angels in different planets and stuff. Okay. When the spiritual world, I mean, imagine a stack of papers, right? And you pull the first paper off, and then the second paper off, and the third paper off, and the fourth paper off. It's like a layer, right? The spiritual world is layered that way. All right, we're on the top. We can't see, but once you see you pull a layer off. I mean, nothing changes except you'll see like certain people standing around, and they'll look at you right away. They'll know who you are. They don't. They just look like regular people. Those are angels. Then you take the second layer off. Those same people will appear like little men. It's something with the ocular, something with the physics. And then you pull it off, and then they start appearing as light, and then you pull the next one off, and then you'll see angels which you will not be able, you will fall faint, because they're spectacular forms. They're unbelievable visual things to see. So anyway, let me not talk about that. That sounds really weird, but so I think that's it for today. I think those were, some of you asked me some really hard questions that I can't go into, or where I don't want to go into. But that's with that. Thank you for your patience. And it was nice to be able to come out like this. This is what I'm going to do most of the time. Instead of waiting till I have a long message, just to come pop in and say a few words to you. And you know, a lot of Muslims are here in America now. I've been waiting for you. Please join us. Help us to save. Help us, the Jews, and help us, the Christians, to save this country from the homosexual lobby that has taken over, is trying to transform this government. A lot of you were permitted in, and they're expecting you to be on their side, but I want you to turn, and I want you to help evangelical Christians and help Christians in general bring this government back to acceptable Christian standards. And join me. I couldn't visit you, but you're here now, so join me and help us do this. Help us join in the revival. Thank you. Inshallah. Shalom Aleichem. And everybody, God bless you. Please have a wonderful week. And before I let you go, let me just play a little bit more of that. Hey, mashallah!